Today we're going to be working on the Flight Test EZ Jets kit. We've got 3 different jets to make today. The Stealth, the Hornet, and the ME. Each one has their own different advantages or disadvantages with flying indoors or outdoors with different conditions. That's up for you to test after making each one of these jets. Let's get into the first one. Alright guys, so now we're going to be moving into the making of our Stealth Jet, which we're going to need these components for. We're going to need a tape that I've talked about before, which is something that you're going to want to be able to peel off so that you can reuse these components, the motorized components, later on. This is just a little, I would say like a back piece that we're going to use. I'll talk in more detail about this. This is to help motorize it, and then of course our hot glue gun with the low setting. So let's get into the different sections and components of the Stealth Jet. Okay guys, so now we're going to be getting into the making of the Stealth Jet for the EZ flight test kits. And first we're going to go over the doublers. We got your left doubler, your right doubler. One of them has a cutout. Then you're going to have your main fuselage, your 2 tails, and then you're going to have your main body. And then here we have an angle tool, which is going to help us angle the side of our main body. You'll see that later. So let's get into it. First I'm going to take the paper off of everything. But before I do that, we're going to glue this seam here in the middle. This main body has a seam to it. We're going to glue that first real quick. And all we're going to do is put a bead of hot glue all the way through. And then we're going to hold that there for 30 seconds. And I'm going to do that before I take off all the paper. So once you get back to the next set, that's what's gonna be happening. Alright guys, so I've got the paper off all my pieces, and now we're gonna get into the workings of this main body, which should be rigid if we glued up those seams beforehand. So let's get into that, and then we'll start constructing the jet. Okay guys, so now we're going to be getting into some specifics with the main body. So here on the main body on both sides, we're going to have 2 little side fins, and there's going to be a seam here, and we're going to kind of use either anything you have, maybe a dull pencil or a pen. I have a piece of a barbecue skewer from another one of these modeling videos, and I'm just going to come in here in the seam, and I'm just going to brush through and kind of make the seam a little bit wider. And the reason I'm going to do that is so I can have more lift. You see how it goes up? And we're going to use our angling tool to come in, and once we put a bead of glue in here, we're going to lift this up, we're going to put this angling tool in, we're going to put the flat part down, we're just going to hold it just like this for 30 seconds so that it can completely bond and stay rigid. And when we take it out, this fin should be out. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to pause it here, and then I'll show you what it looks like once I've done both sides. So bead here, angle tool, push in, hold it 30 seconds, and another 30 seconds over here. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've seamed up both of these side fins, and just to show you guys how I was keeping this steady was I put my angle tool in here, I held out the angle, and I put my 2 fingers right here just to make sure that the angle was properly formed, and I just took it out. So that's it for this, and now we're going to move on to adding the other components. Okay guys, so now we're going to be getting into putting the doublers on the main fuselage. Now you can see I only have 1 doubler here. The reason why is because I already glued the other one, and the reason is that it's the same as this. So you won't really need any explanation on that once I show you how to do this one. So this doubler is just going to go, it's the left doubler, and we distinguish right from left form if you're inside the cockpit looking outwards. So this plane is going to be, this is your cockpit up here, and you'll see it even more pronounced once you put this doubler on. But if you see the little perforation marks on this main fuselage, you can't really see too good here in the video because of lighting, but that's where this square piece is going to go. It's going to go around there, and then you're going to want it to stay flush with the bottom and the top, and you're going to want this gap to be fully through. You can see fully through it because that's where your battery is going to go if you choose to motorize this Stealth Jet. So let's go ahead and put some glue here and then apply it, and then I'll come back to once I've applied it shortly. Okay guys, so I've already applied glue to this side, and this is now bonded. Remember, 15 to 30 seconds to make sure it's a full bond of pressure and without shifting it around. And the other side, as you can see the view of the cockpit is. Now we've got 3 layers. The other side, I put the other front doubler. You are going to have a little bit of a pronouncing little prong coming out here, and there's one here in the back because that's what's going to connect to our main body. So that's the next part that we're going to go to. Remember that this little cutout here should be, you should be able to see right through that, and that's important. So now we're going to move on to putting the main fuselage onto the main body. Okay guys, so now we're going to be implementing our fuselage to our main body. Remember, these 2 side fins should be angled with our angle tool that we used earlier. And this back little piece here is going to also be angled a little bit upward. And it's going to be connected to the tail end right here of our fuselage. So what I want to do with that little skewer or pen or dull pencil, whatever you used, we're just going to follow this line down, and we're going to make it a little wider. So let's do that real quick. And guys, if you cut through here, don't worry, you can always tip back on the bottom, the underbelly, and it'll hinge just as we need it. That should be all we need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here on the main fuselage. So always gets a little more contrast. And I'm just going to bead all throughout here, and then I'm going to connect it to the main body via here and here. So this prong and this prong will be going in there, and once that's in place, you see how this back end angles up a little? We're going to raise this up. So we also need to make sure to put glue back here. So glue here where it angles upwards, and then glue all here until this front prong. And you can even put some here up on the sides, but you don't have to put some here because it's just going to be touching the bottom of the plane. So I'm going to glue that, and then I'll show you what it looks like once I'm done. Okay guys, so I have got this completely glued in, some hot glue. And then we've got this back piece angled. You can see a little bit of a difference here. And now we're going to move on to implementing the tails. The tails are going to go in these 2 back little sections, and we're also going to be using that angle tool. So make sure you have that around for the next section. Okay guys, so now we're going to be gluing our tails onto our back elevator that lifts up here, and we're going to be using this angle tool. How we're going to do that, just so you guys can see beforehand, because this is very important for the proper flight of this stealth jet, is we're going to put this in after we've glued these 2 sections, leaving this part out of being plain glue. Put that little thing in here, a little prong, and then we're going to get our angle tool, pressure down on this back elevator, and then we're going to angle it. And you're probably going to hold this longer than 30 seconds. I would recommend about 45 seconds to a minute, so that it can properly set in, because the angling of these 2 tails is crucial for the flight of the stealth jet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys what it looks like at the end of this. Okay guys, so this is what your back tails are going to look like once you finish. This one's a little floppier than this one. Looks pretty symmetric to me. That one should be good in a couple of seconds or so. So now that we have constructed this, we're going to move on to motorizing it. That's the next part, so let's get into those motorized components in the next little piece of this video. Okay guys, so something I forgot to mention was talking about the CG. Before you model it, if you are going to throw this just by itself and float around without having it being motorized, then you're going to want to use these little nuts that were given in the kit to help keep your CG right. And where you're gonna put those is in this little front slot here. You can see right through right here. that is going to be where you put your battery when you motorize it. But if not, you're going to put these nuts in there. And for some of these models, I've noticed that when you put the nut through, it just falls right out. So what I've been doing is putting tape on one side, tape right here, and then we'll put this nut in, and then we'll secure it with tape on this side. And you are going to have to kind of peel that tape back and move that nut back and forth depending on where your CG should be. Your CG is your center of gravity, so if it's too nose heavy and it goes down when you throw it, then you're going to want to move your CG back. So you're going to move one nut, or probably even two nuts, probably what you're going to want to use. Two nuts back. You might have them spaced out a little, and then if it's too tail heavy, which I doubt for this model, but you never know because everybody's model is going to be different with your glue placement and everything, then you'd have to move these a little bit more towards the middle or to the front. And so that's how you would do that. And remember, that's why we have that tape that you could peel back easily. So now that we've covered this, which I forgot about in that earlier clip, we're going to start going about the motorization. And now we'll get into the different components that we're going to need to motorize this stealth jet. Okay guys, now we're going to be getting into the motorization of the stealth jet. To do that, we're going to be first mounting the control board on the stealth jet. We're going to mount that in this little area that we have right here. We're going to mount it with the red and black wire facing forward to the front of the cockpit. And the way you dictate the left and right of the cockpit, even though we already know it's the left because the left doubler, is by where you would be sitting if you're in the cockpit. So if you're sitting here looking outward to the front of the plane, this is your left, this is your right. So now that we've done that, we're going to talk about the propellers. The propellers here are dictated differently by, if you can see it, R and L. This is R, so this is L. This is the one I need. So the left one is the one with the blue and red wires. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mounting this up here after this frame, after we have glued these propellers. So what we're going to do is put the propellers right under here. From the underbelly, we're going to glue it. So we're going to put a dab of glue on this gray tab and on this gray tab. Then you're going to get this wooden frame, and you're just going to put some pressure from those bottom two tabs. We're also going to punch these out. Let me punch these out right now. We don't need those. And then we're going to apply pressure, and you want to keep that pressure for about 20 or 30 seconds. So we're going to do that first, and then I'll come back and I'll have both of them done, and then we're going to glue this to here, and I'll show y'all guys that portion. Okay guys, so I've got these two propellers, the right and left propellers, mounted, and now what we're going to do is put a bead of glue right in the middle, and we're just going to push this down right where we got a little cutout here. Make sure that's as even as possible, and press down for another 20 or 30 seconds. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back. Okay guys, so I've now got this back piece glued in, and now we're just going to go through the rest of it, which is mounting the battery and putting these little connectors in. So first we're just going to put the battery in. Let me just get that done real quick. Just going to put it right here, nuzzle it into that little area that we had left for it. Once we do that, we'll connect it. Oh, my board came loose. You know what, let me get this board back in, and then let me get these connectors connected with the propeller, and then I'll come back. Okay guys, so coming back here now, I've connected the connectors into where they need to go from the propellers. The black and white wire is going to go with the white connector and the white connection on your control board, and then the blue and red has a red connector that's going to go into the red connection on the control board. You're going to pull that black and white through that hole that's designated in the middle of this fuselage. So once you put the battery in, you connect it. I tape down these wires just so that in flight they can't get caught up in the propellers in any way or catch up on anything. But now that you have this, you're almost done. All we have to introduce is the controller, the receiver, and we're going to do first is turn on this control board by getting that black switch underneath. So I was going to see if I can do that without completely messing this up, and I can't. So let me show you guys that light. There you go. Once you flip that on, you're going to flip on your receiver, and then you're going to want to press rate. And now you're going to try to make it a little connection. I'm going to put my finger down on this because sometimes it flies off. Alright, so once you've connected it, the two lights are going to both stay red. I would press rate again so that it starts blinking. It gives you a much more smooth control of the thrust and the throttle. So the left controls your thrust, controls your throttle, and then the left knob, the analog stick, and then the right knob or analog stick. When you go left, it gives more power to your right, so you turn left, and then when you go with the right, vice versa. So this is your controller for this Stealth Jet, and you are done. You have full control of this if you want to go. Just to throw it, if you're just floating it, or if you're going to throw it for liftoff for this, I would grab it like this and kind of throw it more like a dart, and that gives it the best gradual liftoff. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and building this Stealth Jet with me. I hope this helps you guys. I'll include all of the different sections and different steps within the handout so that you guys can follow along. If maybe there's something I missed in this video, or maybe you guys don't have this video, or you don't have audio for this. So good luck to you guys. Have fun with this. This was fun for me to make and fun for me to test out. And go test this out for your own. And you know what? Just real quick, for the center of gravity, this battery may not be enough. It should be enough. But you can also shift the battery front and back, and then you also have those nuts just in case. But have fun with this, guys. And thank you guys for being around here and stick along with this process.